Good morning, everybody. Joseph is filming me today, and we're outside. The beautiful thing about Las Vegas, if the temperature is below 95, we're like, ooh, what a nice cool morning. I think we're still just at about 90. Anyway, today's topic is to think about miracles in a way that is informed by a desire for truth and uses open-mindedness and actually seeks to have fun with it. It is not, by contrast, to be argumentative. My whole 6 decades on the planet, I have heard people arguing about whether or not miracles happen. And let me put that into context for you. The church, especially in the middle of the 20th century, didn't want to appear old-fashioned, and it didn't want to appear superstitious. So a lot of the theologians at the time wanted to be more scientific and academic and intellectual and very much like the universities where they were, and all that's fine. Desiring the truth is always a good thing. Getting argumentative about half-truths is never a good thing. But anyway, I grew up in a world in the 1960s where, and I grew up pretty much on a seminary campus for the first several years of my life, and the argument was that miracle stories were all just good stories, but they didn't actually happen. Take, for instance, Moses and the children of Israel going through the Red Sea. It looks like work backing up like that, Joseph. Let's just stop for a second, okay? The idea in the Bible is that the children of Israel, not only did the Red Sea part and let them through, but the story got so good, they said, that the children of Israel went through on dry land. Said scientists and the theologians of the day. Utterly impossible. Didn't happen. What happened was it was a rare occurrence of strong tides, strong winds at a certain spot in that part of the ocean. They managed to get through with the water really low, and the amount of time that passed, by the time the Egyptians came with their chariots and soldiers, the conditions had gone to the exact opposite. Like there'd been a lunar cycle, and the lowest tide became the highest tide. The wind was still blowing, but now the other way, and it drowned them. But because the children of Israel told the story for so many centuries, they even made it better and better and less factual, like that they walked through on dry land. Now, I invite everybody to consider at least the possibility that the reportage was correct. That in fact the Red Sea parted, and it parted so completely that the land was dry. And similarly, just for fun, I invite everybody to consider that Jesus may actually have been born of a virgin teenager 2,000 years ago. There's another one that got poo-pooed all over the place. Jesus's mom wasn't a virgin. Virgins don't have babies. Similarly, that same Jesus, who was born of a woman and a man, never walked on water unless the water was frozen, which didn't happen because it doesn't get that cold in Palestine, not 2,000 years ago and not now. So that's just a good made-up story. And same with his resurrection. What really happened, said theologians, is that he just was a really good teacher and so beloved, and his love was so strong that when he died, they remembered him with so much love. Their love almost made it feel like he was there with them. And so then they made up the story that he actually ate a piece of fish with them too. Now, I would say to everybody, why would you argue so powerfully for a limited universe? The fact is we don't know all the facts. The smartest guy here is St. Paul, who says in Corinthians, in this life, we see as through a glass darkly. We see in part, we know in part, but we will eventually know in full. And here's the best part. As we are fully known now, already, by God. We will someday have that perspective. And until we do, let's delight in what we don't know. and actually just stay open to the possibility that maybe one guy was so powerful in his prayer and his faith in a truer physics that he could actually walk on water, that he could walk through walls, as is suggested by his just appearing in the room with the disciples after his resurrection. And that same guy who could walk through walls could eat a piece of bread. It's kind of fun, isn't it? Also, for those of you who go, yeah, well, it's also fun to believe in Santa Claus, but there isn't one. Ooh, don't ever say that around me. That poo-pooing just doesn't work. Well, but without getting into Santa Claus, let's think about a world that actually has the possibility where what we call miracles exist. We just don't fully understand them yet. The very little I understand about quantum physics, and I am not a scientist, I don't want to offend anybody who is, but the very little I understand is that mostly this world that we call material is actually empty space. Like 99.999% of it is just empty. And what holds these photons and electrons and neutrons together is kind of a magic that nobody really understands, which is why a guy like Einstein says, all scientific inquiry eventually leads to the lake of mystery. The guy that preceded him, von Planck, or whatever that guy that got the Nobel Prize, who really started quantum mechanics, said the same thing. For believers, God is the beginning. For scientists, God is the end. But think about it. What's the difference? If you were born in California, or all your life you wanted to visit California, and you finally get there at the age of 50, there's still a California. It doesn't matter whether you got there at the beginning or you got there 50 years later. California is. And it's the same with God. But here's the bigger point of my message today. Stop arguing. Instead, delight in possibility. Have fun thinking about a world that's full of unexplained phenomenon, of things that get called miracles, of things that are anomalies, statistical anomalies. It's really easy for me, since there are about 7 statistics on me which would say that I would have to have died and stayed dead of a sure and certain death. But here I am talking. Is that God? Is that quantum physics? Is that a benevolent universe? Is that proof of love? For me, it's a yes to all of the above. But even then, I don't know for sure, but I sure love the possibility. It gives me great joy. And part of that great joy is I don't argue about it. I just share it with love, and I listen to others' truth with love as well, because it's just as valid as mine, because it's all partial in every case. I think that's enough for today, especially it being a Monday. God bless you all. I love you.